Fala pessoal, eu espero que vocês estejam bem. A OpenAI simplesmente resolveu lançar dois novos modelos, o O3 e o O4 Mini. Vem comigo, vamos assistir essa apresentação deles juntos. Eu vou deixar a apresentação levemente acelerada com legenda e vou fazendo alguns comentários de vez em quando, mas a ideia é que seja um pouquinho mais rápido do que assistir a apresentação inteira e com alguns detalhes a mais.
Hello and welcome. I'm Greg Brockman.
I'm Mark Chen. I lead research at OpenAI.
There are some models that feel like a qualitative step into the future. GPT-4 was one of those. Today is also going to be one of those days. We are going to be releasing two models, O3 and O4 Mini. These are the first models where top scientists tell us they produce legitimately good and useful novel ideas.
Uma paulada já no começo. Basicamente, os pesquisadores dizem que eles produzem ideias novas, não só combinações de ideias, mas produzem ideias novas.
We've seen great results in law. Talking to one of my coworkers yesterday,
Eu vou me tirar aqui, me colocar mais no canto.
he said that O3 came up with a great idea for system architecture. It's like we haven't really seen anything like this. And the thing that's really amazing about these models is that they're not just models. They're really AI systems. We've trained them to use tools, which is not something that we had done with our previous reasoning models.
Finalmente, modelos que usam ferramentas. E isso, ao meu ver, é exatamente o passo que faltava. Eu estou trabalhando num vídeo que fala aí sobre AGI, os passos para chegar na AGI, e o uso de ferramentas, evidentemente, é um deles. Ou seja, isso aqui é muito interessante mesmo.
They actually use these tools in their chain of thought as they're trying to solve a hard problem. For example, we've seen O3 use like 600 tool calls in a row trying to solve a really hard task.
O3 tentou usar 600 chamadas de ferramentas na sequência para tentar resolver uma tarefa muito difícil.
And we're going to be making these models incrementally available starting today, rolling out as quickly as we can in our API and ChatGPT. And one thing that's very near and dear to my heart is their ability in software engineering, and not just producing sort of one-off pieces of code, but really working in real code bases. I found that these models are actually better than I am at navigating through our OpenAI code base, which is really useful.
Definitely better than I am. For me a long time.
Yes, but it just helps you get so much more done. And so we're really excited to bring these to the world and see what you will all do with them.
Isso é muito interessante. Pelo visto, são modelos de ponta. Evidentemente, a gente vai ver com os benchmarks e com os resultados aí, que provavelmente esses aqui são o state of the art, o SOTA do momento. Mas essa introdução aqui tá me deixando até com calafrios. Usa ferramentas, cria coisas novas, é realmente inovador. Pecado que eu já dei uma olhadinha e não está disponível ainda no ChatGPT, mas como ele falou, vai ser feito o rollout devagarinho. Vamos ver. Vamos continuar assistindo aqui.
The reason we're so excited about tool use is that it makes our reasoning models that much more useful and that much smarter. Just as you might use a calculator to solve a difficult math problem, or you might use a map app to navigate through unfamiliar streets, our models, when paired with the right tools, become that much more powerful. With that in mind, we
Com certeza, os modelos com as ferramentas certas ficam infinitamente mais poderosos, como qualquer pessoa com as ferramentas certas.
combined our O-series reasoning models with our full suite of tools to achieve state-of-the-art results across a bunch of very hard benchmarks, including AMY, GPQA, Codeforces, and Sweetbank. And just to illustrate
Então, eles usaram essas ferramentas, com essas ferramentas, com certeza eles conseguem resultados melhores. Então, a gente viu aí de uma geração de modelos, digamos, estáticos para modelos com tempo de inferência e raciocínio. Agora, modelos com acesso a ferramentas. Se a gente for ver o próprio Deep Research, ele nada mais é que um modelo com acesso à ferramenta de busca na internet. Já tem um resultado muito melhor e agora eles estão dando outras ferramentas para o modelo.
the power of tools, it can also give a lot of new functionality. For instance, we now can have the models think with images. And what that means is that the model can use Python to manipulate, crop, and transform images in service of the task that you want to do. This means that today you can upload complicated images. You can upload blurry, upside-down images, and the model will handle that without any problem. Now, these advancements are powered by continued algorithmic advances in our RL paradigm. We've continued to scale both train time scaling and test time scaling. And one thing
Isso é muito interessante. Imagina que agora o modelo pode usar ferramentas em Python para resolver um problema intermediário, fazer um passo intermediário para chegar numa solução. Isso aqui começa a dar as capacidades que o cérebro humano tem, que é de usar ferramentas, fazer comparações, alterar o formato do dado para tentar extrair um dado novo dali ou um dado não observado ainda.
thing that makes me so excited about these models is just 1 or 2 weeks ago, I saw that there was a new paper in condensed matter physics, right? And it used O3 mini high to aid in the proof of a new unsolved theorem. And I really do believe that with this suite of models, O3 and O4 mini, we're going to see more advances like that. So here we have two of our
Já foi usado o O3 Mini para uma prova matemática que não existia, e eles acreditam que esses dois modelos vão trazer mais oportunidades ainda para coisas do tipo.
For researchers, we have Eric and Brandon, and they're going to show us a demo.
Hi, I'm Brandon McKenzie. I work on multimodal reasoning at
Vamos ver a
OpenAI.
Hi,
demonstração
I'm Eric Mitchell. I
deles.
work on post-training along with lots of other folks for our O-Series models.
All right, we're going to show you some things that O3 can do. I'll start with a science example. So this will be a physics poster. So I'm going to let O3 start thinking now so it can take its time. What I'm going to feed it is a poster of some physics internship that I did in 2015, so 10 years ago. And this poster, or the project was supposed to estimate a quantity called the proton isovector scalar charge. It's a beyond the standard model of particle physics quantity that tells you how short-range interactions, how strong they are. And what you'll see is that the model O3 is zooming in. It's kind of like browsing around. Here, I'll zoom out just so we get a little bit better view. And it is kind of looking for the right quantities for the question I asked it, which is to basically find this result that
Olha só, então agora ele usa as ferramentas. Nesse caso especificamente, eles estão mostrando imagens. Ele consegue dar zoom em partes da imagem, recortar pedaços e tudo mais. Isso é muito interessante porque é uma coisa que a gente costuma fazer também.
I had and compare it to recent literature. But there's a small twist. The result actually isn't in the poster, and that's because I didn't have it yet. So although it's in the
Tá, de qualquer forma, é uma pesquisa de física e nesse poster que ele fez não tem o resultado. Então tem todos os dados que ele coletou, mas não tem o
final
resultado.
paper for this project is not in this poster, and I'm actually asking O3 to do the rest of the project for me, essentially.
He uses the same trick at OpenAI.
Então, basicamente, ele está pedindo pro 3 fazer o restante do paper, o que falta do paper ali.
It's true. Great. So it found the plot that I wanted it to find. It's supposed to figure out that it needs to find the slope of this plot, extrapolate down to a specific physical quark mass, and then grab that quantity, and then actually apply another quantity to normalize that value. And I think it has already kind of figured out that this is what it should do, but it is just spending a little bit more time exploring the image. Okay, it's good. It's now going to browse the web for recent results.
Yeah, why is it searching the web?
Well, I think I actually did I ask it? I said, oh yeah, find any recent findings. I've updated estimates. So now it's just looking at the literature and seeing what people have done and how it compares to the result that the things that I eventually arrived at.
How long do you think it would take you to
Ou seja, ele já entendeu o que tem que fazer, provavelmente já chegou num resultado e ainda está pesquisando na internet outras informações que possam alterar o resultado.
do this task?
Quite a long time. Yeah, so I mean, it took me a long time.
Quanto tempo ele levaria para fazer isso manualmente? Foi a pergunta, e ele falou que é muito
Just to
tempo.
remember what my poster even meant in the first place, and also I also didn't even realize that the result wasn't there when I first asked it this question. It actually told me that, which was nice. So many days just for me to even onboard myself back to my
Vários
project, and then
dias.
a few days more.
Só para
probably to
ele
actually, search through the
entender
literature.
novamente o que
it
ele
must
já
have
tinha
read, at
feito.
least 10 different papers in a few seconds for me. So that's a huge time savings. Great. So it has summarized my result here, and these numbers look correct to me. So it's figured out there's this unnormalized value that it's estimated by extrapolating, and that when you multiply by this specific constant, that it will renormalize it, and it says, okay, you would have ended up with this, which is somewhat close. I think it ended up around 1.2 in my paper, and then it compares with the actual literature here. So there's a few different estimates, and looks a little close, I'd say. So let's see what it says. It says my Bayer value looks high because it needs to be renormalized. That's correct. After you multiply by that, you get something that's more consistent with the state-of-the-art results. That's great. But it says my precision isn't as good as the state-of-the-art, which is fine. It was an internship.
Not bad.
Exactly. So I'll take it. So it seems like it's still a reasonable estimate that maybe has a little bit more uncertainty than recent results, which is great. So the field has made progress, which is awesome to see.
That's such a cool example.
Cool. Now I'll hand it off to Eric for his example.
Legal, um exemplo um pouquinho complexo demais, mas basicamente demonstrando que ele consegue fazer uma parte daquilo que um pesquisador faria, chegar em conclusões e corrigir resultados de uma pesquisa que tinha problemas nos dados. Isso é muito interessante. Vamos ver esse outro exemplo.
Yeah, it's tough to go after a demo like that, but I'm gonna show another aspect of O3's capabilities that I also think is super cool. As Mark and Greg have said, one of the cool things about these models is they can use all of the tools that we have available in ChatGPT. So I just turned on memory for this model, so the model knows a few things about me, and I'll get this one started as well. And so as people have said, models are super smart, which is really great, and they can help us with even cutting edge research in all sorts of fields. But even if you're not literally a researcher in particle physics, this new intelligence and these sort of more agentic kind of abilities to use tools is still useful, and it can still be very valuable for you as well. And so what I've asked O3 here is just based on what you know about me, so it has access to memories now, read the news and teach me something that I probably didn't know, but that I would find really cool in particular. And so this is going to involve
Tá legal. Basicamente, pedindo para o ChatGPT, em base ao conhecimento acumulado de todas as perguntas, de todas as interações que eles tiveram, para achar pelo menos 2 assuntos que são do interesse dele, mas que ele provavelmente não conhece.
knowing something about me, but also doing some of this agentic thinking and tool use to look up some potentially relevant interesting things. And here I've also asked it to actually plot some some data or information that I could put in a blog post if I wanted to tell people about this cool new fact. And so what it's done here is some of my interests are scuba diving and playing music, and so it's sort of combined these interests, and it's actually found this line of research that was actually kind of mind-blowing to me, which I didn't know about until I actually was working on this demo, where researchers actually make recordings of healthy coral reefs, and then they literally play back those recordings underwater with an underwater speaker, and that actually accelerates the settlement of new coral and even fish to sort of heal that coral reef and have it regenerate more quickly. And so
Interessante. Ele gosta de música, gosta de mergulho e o ChatGPT encontrou uma pesquisa aí de como eles gravam o som de corais saudáveis e tocam eles para corais que estão tentando se regenerar e isso ajuda ou acelera nesse processo de regeneração.
This is like an actual line of research in like coral reef preservation, and it was a very cool sort of synthesis of like both like underwater exploration and also music. And so here we have a nice blog post. So the model is sort of smoothly both browsing. It's using advanced data analysis to show and plot some data for me. It's using Canvas to generate a blog post, and it's summarizing at the end with some citations, what it found and where it got those results from. So again, these models are super super smart, which is awesome, and I'm really really excited about it. And I think this new intelligence and sort of ability to use tools will be useful whether you are literally at the frontiers of some scientific field or you are integrating this model in your everyday workflows.
I wonder if like what you can
Pessoal, até agora eu não vi nada de muito absurdo, mas a questão é que no dia a dia, no uso desses novos modelos, pode ser que a gente consiga entender essa vantagem que eles têm. E eu não tenho dúvida, como um usuário fissurado em Deep Research, que isso, junto com Deep Research, vai dar uma diferença muito grande.
maybe play sound for a physicist too, and improve their results.
Yeah, what should we play at work?
Yeah, the sound of a healthy
Physicist, what does healthy physicist sound like, Brandon?
I'll look into that. I'll ask F3.
Cool. Thank you guys both for showing these really compelling demos. Next we'll have Wenda and we'll have Ananya come on and talk a little bit about how the models are trained and also what the evals are like.
Great. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Thank you both.
Man, it's super incredible.
It really
it's
is.
knowledge work, and also, even if you're just doing something that's highly personalized, it's very useful.
And to me, the magic is that under the hood, it's still just next token prediction.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's just a model that's just thinking about what should come next.
With sprinkles of RL.
Exactly. We've changed the objective, we changed where the data come from, and now we're able to really hook it up to the world.
Hi, I'm Wenda. I'm a researcher at OpenAI, and I work on scanning RL systems.
I'm Ananya. I'm a researcher at OpenAI, and I worked on some of the algorithms for these models. So we wanted to start out by showing some results on standard benchmarks for these models.
Então, basicamente, eles vão começar a mostrar os benchmarks aí. Vamos dar uma olhadinha aqui. Vamos ouvir o que eles vão falar e depois, se for o caso, a gente volta aqui e dá uma olhadinha melhor.
In math, coding, and science. So in these plots, the dark yellow bars are the new set of models, and the light yellow bars are the old set of models. And we see a pretty substantial boost. So on Amy, which is a hard math contest, O4 Mini gets 99% accuracy with duals, pretty much saturating the eval. On Codeforces, these models get over 2,700, which places them in the top 200 contestants in the world. And GPQA is a set of hard PhD-level questions, and O3 gets over 83%, which is pretty incredible.
Pretty good.
We want to go beyond the eval numbers, which are incredible, and show you a little bit how our model uses tools in order to solve those problems. So here, for example, we have a problem from the Amy math contest, and the problem here is asking you to look at this grid of 2x2 squares and count the number of combinations of coloring that verify some constraint. And let's see how the model does it.
Eles vão usar um exemplo de um desses benchmarks aqui live.
Yeah, so the way the model thinks is really cool. So it starts out by producing a brute force program and then runs it using a Python interpreter. And it gets the right answer, which is 82. But this is messy.
Ele basicamente usou força bruta, ou seja, é como se ele fosse, como uma pessoa comum, fosse lá e contasse todas as possibilidades. Mas, como ele está falando aqui, é confuso e tudo mais. Então vamos ver qual que é a resposta que ele acha
It's pretty
depois.
inelegant. And the model recognizes that and then simplifies its solution and comes up with a smarter way of doing things. It then also double checks its answer to increase its reliability, which is kind of neat. Now these models are not just trained to output the right answer, they're also
Ou seja, muito parecido como os humanos fazem, né? A gente tenta, faz alguma coisa que chega mais ou menos na área da resposta, depois com base a isso a gente melhora a resposta, refina e tem um resultado final.
trained to be useful. So in this case, it now gives the solution in words to explain it to a human. What I found really cool here was we didn't train the model to use certain strategies directly. We didn't say simplify your solution or double check. It just organically learns to do these things, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's super cool that it comes up with essentially the intelligent solution here that a human will be able to do, whereas the first brute force solution, of course, you would never have time to do that in the actual context.
Eles não instruíram o modelo a fazer essas melhorias, mas ele faz por si mesmo. Vamos ver aqui outros benchmarks aqui de código.
So beyond math science, we also want to share, a lot of you, I know, use these models for coding, and we want to share some practical coding benchmarks. So on Swedenser, Swedench, and ADPolyglot, we achieve state-of-the-art results with the model when it's how to use tools end-to-end without any harness or any specific things like this. And to illustrate a bit more, I want to share a Swedench example with all of you. So for this example, I'm running it with O3 High in the API with access to the container tool. Unfortunately, it will take us a couple more weeks to put the final polish on a tool running in the API, and so you won't be able to run this today, but I want to share this because I'm so excited about how the model is using the tool. So the problem the model is asked to tackle is the following. It's concerning a bug in this package called SymPy, which is a Python package which is used to manipulate symbolic mathematics. And I'm prompting the model.
Ele basicamente colocou um código aqui que ele sabe que tem um bug internamente na biblioteca, né? O bug não está exatamente aqui no código que ele colocou. E vamos ver o que o modelo responde.
With the question, and I'm also giving the model access to a container, which is a virtual machine, with the SymPy repository preloaded. So the model has access to a shell.
Tá, o modelo também tem acesso ao código-fonte utilizado para isso aqui.
With all the code right there, and the model will have to figure out the bug. So the cool thing is that the model starts by just double checking what I'm saying and seeing whether,
Basicamente, o modelo testa o que ele falou, então faz exatamente o que ele falou e verifica se ele realmente tem o mesmo problema. Então, basicamente, como qualquer pessoa faria no trabalho, por exemplo.
It's observe the same thing. Like I would do when someone bugs me about something, I'm just going to check, is it actually a problem? And the model does see, oh yeah, it seems to print out max of 2x with the round brackets on the square brackets.
I bug Wendell a lot, and he does that.
He always has good questions, so yeah. And then after this, just to double check, it will check that a sign is now rendering correctly. So this is the square brackets, it's the internal behavior, that's the bug we're trying to fix essentially. And so the model will go around and browse the code and try to get the lay of the land of the repository. And to do this, it just uses common terminal tools that
Aí ele testa novamente o código de uma outra forma para saber onde está o erro, e depois ele começa a dar uma olhada no código que ele tem disponível para tentar achar onde está o erro.
and then we might use in our day-to-day work. So like it lists the files, it opens the file with sed, and it will print out the relevant files and try to find what it's looking for. After some browsing, eventually the model figures out that maybe it can check this thing called the MRO, which is a pattern construct that tells you about the inheritance of the class. And then based on the previous knowledge that the model has acquired, it notices that something is wrong and this class does not inherit from function in the form application. And so the model browses around it a bit more and eventually figures out that there's a good solution here. We can change this file to implement this. So use a PyPatch, applies a patch, and then hopefully this is the right solution.
Basicamente, ele acha ali um problema aparentemente de herança dentro do código e aplica uma solução ao código.
Finally, to confirm this, the model runs a unit test just like any good engineer would to double check that it has gotten the right thing and it sees that indeed now it's printing with the square brackets. So this was a real cool route, and it's really cool to see the model kind of arranging this all by its own. This route was actually on the shorter side of Sweetbunch, and there were about 22 interactions and 16,000 tokens.
In some cases,
E ele conseguiu resolver o problema. Muito
the
interessante.
model uses more than 100 container interactions, and on average it uses 37. So it's pretty cool that it can do these long rollouts with so many container interactions and get the right answer.
Tá, ele usa várias vezes as ferramentas e o que ele tem disponível para ele, e é bem parecido como nós seres humanos fazemos, né? Para tentar avaliar um erro, verificamos diversas vezes, tentamos possibilidades. Muito interessante.
Doing a rollup that long with reliability is not trivial at all.
It's really hard. Yeah. We also wanted to show some numbers for standard multimodal benchmarks, and these numbers are just crazy on MMMU, MathVista, Charkive, and VStar. So we really hope these models are useful for your multimodal tasks as well.
Now this is really
Os modelos são multimodais. Isso tá claro, né? Porque no final das contas eles interpretam imagem e texto. Então já são multimodais, considerados multimodais só por isso. Mas aqui em benchmarks multimodais, a gente vê que ele claramente bate os outros modelos da OpenAI. A gente precisa ver como ele se comporta com relação aos outros modelos dos concorrentes.
applying the reasoning paradigm to multimodal, which was previously not possible, and now, as Brandon demoed, the model is able to manipulate the image directly in the channel out, and that leads to a huge increase in compatibility for multimodal.
Ou seja, ele consegue manipular a imagem já na cadeia de pensamento dele, fazer as alterações necessárias para já sair com resultado superior a outros modelos que não têm essa possibilidade. Ou seja, aqui claramente a gente vê que o uso das ferramentas, a possibilidade de usar ferramentas, eleva a capacidade do modelo.
Yeah, finally, I want to share another few evals that we run externally. So Humanities Last Exam, as you can see, O3 model is able to get
Humanities Last Exam, que deveria ser o teste mais difícil aí para a humanidade. Basicamente, sem ferramentas, ele já vai melhor do que os modelos anteriores. Com ferramentas de browsing, ele chega a 24.9. Sem ferramentas, o 4 Mini, com Python e browsing, ele chega a 17.7. E o Deep Research chega a 26.6. É uma ferramenta muito específica, digamos, que o Deep Research faz, além de dar muito mais tempo de inferência para o modelo. Mas a gente consegue ver que o O3, com Python e mais browsing tools, ele consegue chegar muito perto. O que também deixa claro que tem espaço ainda para melhorar o resultado desses modelos.
close to Deep Research, but O3 will run much faster, and of course, much fewer limits in ChatGPT if you're using it in ChatGPT.
Muito mais rápidos, né? E com muito menos comandos ou uso de recursos.
So we think it's a very cool model if you do not need a full report like what Deep Research produces, but instead are still interested in some agentic behavior to help you draw information.
So in these plots, we show the performance on the y-axis against the estimated inference cost on the x-axis, and we see that O4 Mini is quite a bit better than O3 Mini for any given inference cost.
Additionally,
Basicamente, aqui no Y é o resultado, aqui é o custo. Então a gente vê que o O4 Mini, ele consegue resultados melhores. Nesse caso, o custo ligeiramente maior, mas os resultados são sempre melhores com um custo semelhante. Isso comparando com o O3 Mini, e aqui em um outro benchmark a gente vê que mais ou menos se mantém o resultado, com exceção do ponto mais alto do gráfico.
one thing that's not shown here is that O4 Mini is a multimodal model, and like O3 Mini. So if you need a small and fast multimodal reasoning model, I'm very excited for you guys to try out O4 Mini.
The results for O3 are even more stark. You can see that it can get the same performance with way less inference costs, and if you're willing to pay the same amount as O1, then you get a much higher score. So
Então, olha só, o O3 tem um resultado ainda muito melhor, custa muito menos e consegue ter um resultado bem melhor, né? Então, basicamente, deixa o O1 no chinelo, nos benchmarks.
These are pretty amazing models.
And this is why we're going to replace the O1 models with the new ones.
Yes. One thing we should mention quickly is that due to
Então, eles vão substituir o O1 pelos novos modelos, né? Ele tá falando aqui que é exatamente por isso, porque custa menos e tem uma performance melhor.
of the optimizations we've done to make the reasoning more cost efficient and also the model more useful in general, it is not as benchmark optimized as the numbers we shared for the 12 days of Christmas. So there might be some small disparities up and down. Jeremy's gone up in multimodal, for example. We still think that this is a much better model because it's much more optimized for real world use cases and you won't have to wait as long when you're asking for an answer, which is a real thing with these reasoning models.
People are impatient.
I am.
Yeah. So these models are a result of a lot of rigor, science, ingenuity, and craftsmanship. And we put in more than 10 times the training compute of O1 to produce O3. And it was a lot of hard work by lots and lots of people, but the end result was really beautiful to see. As we scaled up compute on the x-axis, the performance on evals like Amy just kept going up.
Yeah, so this is really us, going and retracing our steps through the GPT series, right, which was this kind of predictable scaling and pre-training. And now the goal is really we're trying to get through this scaling in RL and showing that as we put in more RL compute, we're also able to get commensurate gains.
What will O4 look like?
Yeah, I think if we just draw the line, 110%.
Heard it here first.
Great. We're so excited for you to try out the model.
Thank you. So we've shown you the models, but we have one more special surprise. Here to show that to you are Fuad and Michael.
Hi, I'm Fuad on the Agents Research team.
I'm Michael, also on Agents Research.
I remember seeing a couple years ago the Codex demo, and it's just so wild to see how far we've come with these new speed bench numbers.
Yeah, that model in that demo was kind of the first time that anyone had seen what is now called vibe coding. What a great term! I wish we had it at the time. And we called that model Codex because it really captures the fact that code is so integral to what we were trying to train the model to do. And so today, what we're going to show you is a continuation of the Codex legacy. We're going to be releasing a series of applications that we think will define what the future of programming looks like. And today we're starting with the first one.
Great, yeah. Today
Ou seja, o OpenAI vai entrar com força aí na ideia do vibe coding, criando as ferramentas que eles acham que tem que ser utilizadas para vibe coding.
we're excited to share Codex CLI. It's a lightweight interface to connect our models to our users and their computers. You can think of it like a reference implementation for how to safely deploy code executing agents where you need them. It's built on top of public APIs like the Responses API, taking advantage of new features like chain of thought summaries in that API, and our latest models like O3 and O4 Mini with multimodal reasoning capabilities. But enough talk, let's actually see a demo.
Awesome. So
Basicamente, Codex CLI vai permitir que você use os modelos diretamente no seu computador, usando ele como uma espécie de agente. Então, talvez essa aqui é a evolução do operator que todos nós esperávamos. Vamos ver aqui. Tô torcendo para que ele seja capaz de controlar a sua máquina local. Vamos ver.
I went online to see what people had built with O3 Mini, and so I found this cool image to ASCII generator. The author said that they built it with O3, but I'm pretty sure they meant O3 Mini. So
Unless they were time travel.
yeah, right. And so I thought today we would re-implement this using Codex and O4 Mini just from the post. And so I'll start out actually, but just by taking a screenshot, and I'll take the screenshot and I'll drag it to my terminal.
Então, basicamente, ele achou alguma coisa que alguém fez com vibe coding usando o O3 Mini. Ele simplesmente abriu o terminal dele, tá passando o endereço da imagem que ele baixou, né? Ele fez um screenshot, baixou a imagem. Na imagem tinha uma ideia do gráfico e tinha a descrição do que fazia.
And so give it to Codex. And so as you can see, I passed it in using the image flag. And so Codex will start using that multimodal reasoning that we saw earlier from O4 Mini.
And one amazing thing about using these models directly on your computers, you can take any file, any code base that you're working in, just go and grab that, put it into Codex, and here you can actually see some of that chain of thought that we were talking about earlier. It's asking for some clarifying questions, thinking about things, and then it actually looks
Tá fazendo algumas perguntas para clarificar algumas coisas, mas basicamente tá rodando do terminal local.
at the image and even suggest a few things that we want to do with it. What do you have in mind?
I I thought we would just re-implement what we saw in post.
Yeah, well, since we're live, maybe we'll make it a little bit more fun. Let's add the web camera API, and just for the folks watching on the live stream, maybe let's make sure we keep it in the 16:9. I don't want some really small little video, but I'm going to try that.
Basicamente, ele vai pedir para reimplementar e ele falou para, em vez de fazer só um conversor de imagem para ASCII, usar a própria câmera do aparelho para fazer isso.
That sounds bold, but I like it. All right, so that's going.
So while it's thinking, I think one of the amazing things about Codex is that you can actually see it both think and also run the tools directly on your machine. So like what they mentioned earlier with function calling in the API, you can actually expose any of the existing functions that you would use. In the future, we'll have the full suite of tools you'll be able to use in the API. And while it's thinking, do you want me to talk a little bit about how it actually runs the commands? We can start to see it actually running some commands now.
Yeah, so by default, Codex runs in what we call suggest mode. And so as it's running, it suggests commands to edit or commands to run or files to edit, and you get to approve each one. But that can get a bit tedious. And so for the sake of the demo, I ran it in what we call full auto mode.
Yeah, a little bit about full auto mode. It's a mode
Codex faz sugestões, você pode aceitar ou não, mas se você coloca no modo totalmente automático, ele vai adiante e vai fazendo. Pode ser um pouco arriscado, mas no caso aqui, para a demonstração deles, faz todo sentido.
where you can allow the agent to go off and do its work, but still stay safe and secure. So it's able to run commands network disabled and limit the edits that it makes to the directory that you made it in. So it gives you the peace of mind of actually having something that can go off and do things, but without the risks that come with just letting it run whatever command it wants. It looks like it's
E aí parece que você pode limitar para ele trabalhar só numa pasta, não acessar a internet, coisas do tipo, para ter um pouquinho de segurança que ele não vai fazer alguma coisa maluca.
already it's pretty fast. So it's already done.
It's already done.
So we can pull it up.
Yeah, so it said it created this ASCII HTML file. So let's go pull that up. Gotta give it some permissions.
Always need some permissions.
And let's see.
Oh,
nice.
I was like, it even had a little whip slider.
Let's see.
Not quite what I thought a whip slider would do.
Oh, but it's low res us.
I do love the low res version. Greg, you want to say hi?
There we go.
Hi.
Nice.
Amazing. So as you can see, it's so fun to use Codex. We've been using Codex to actually build Codex, and we're incredibly excited to see what you do with it now that it's fully available.
Ah, pessoal, muito legal. Simplesmente criou uma página web que converte texto em ASCII em tempo real, usando a API da câmera local, usando a webcam do computador. Fenomenal.
And not only is the tool available, but we're also open sourcing all the code. So you can go up as a few minutes ago to our GitHub, OpenAI/Codex, and go check it out. You can even use Codex to explain the repo to you. We're incredibly excited to see what you do. Alongside Codex CLI, we're also announcing a $1 million open source initiative to support projects with API credits using our latest models, using Codex CLI to accelerate the frontier of open source. We'll have a link in our research blog post for more information, but with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Mark.
Ainda vão ajudar a comunidade open source aí com, digamos, uso gratuito do modelo aí em mais de $1 million. Muito legal.
Thank you both.
Yeah. Thank you both so much. I want to talk a little bit more about ChatGPT availability. So starting today, if you're a Pro Plus Team subscriber, we're going to start rolling out access to O3, O4 Mini, and O4 Mini High. And as you saw from Ananya's post, these are strictly better than the previous generation of models, so they will be replacing the O1 and O3 Mini series of models that we had before. You're going to have to wait a week if you
Substituir o O1 e o O3. Muito bom.
are Enterprise or EDU. And if you use O1 Pro today and you love it, we are going to roll out O3 Pro, but it will take us some time to make sure all of the last remaining features are tied up.
We are also releasing these models in the API. In upcoming weeks, we will release tool usage in the API as well. So that will be really exciting to see what people do with them. These models, huge amount of work, making them available from the entire team. And so it's been a real labor of love to bring these to the world. And we really view them as a major step forward in our mission of bringing AGI to benefit all of humanity. And so they're very useful for scientific applications, but we also think that they will be useful in your daily life. And so
Em breve vai estar disponível na API e com uso de ferramentas também através da API.
So please use them, explore what they're capable of, and we're just so excited to see what you'll do with them. Thank you.
Thank you to the team.
Eu fico muito animado com lançamentos assim, por causa da capacidade, digamos assim, bola de neve de uma coisa do tipo. Basicamente, nós estamos caminhando para a AGI e a gente consegue sentir já o cheirinho da AGI que está chegando. A coisa que para mim é mais impressionante é o fato que é exponencial o crescimento, porque quando as pessoas começarem a usar, vão começar a gerar coisas novas, que vão gerar coisas novas, que vão gerar coisas novas, que são ferramentas novas, que vai permitir a criação de ferramentas mais potentes, mais bem feitas, num tempo muito mais veloz, que vai permitir ao modelo usar essas ferramentas, o que vai permitir mais cedo ou mais tarde a gente chegar na AGI. Mas e você? O que acha desse lançamento do O3 e do O4 Mini? Deixa sua opinião aí nos comentários. Se ainda não é inscrito no canal, se inscreve agora. Eu sou o Rafael Bernardes e a gente se vê no próximo vídeo. Falou!